Welcome to episode 148 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
I'm Matthew Kay.
And this episode of Beyond the Brick is brought to you by Brickmania.com. Our featured kit this week is the brand new Micro Tank Battle tabletop game. This is a really neat new game released by Brickmania. Comes with a vinyl playmat and several micro tanks that you can play with and play the whole game out, all different little squares, all sorts of little interesting pieces to make the micro tanks up. It's a really awesome new game, so I'd encourage you to check this out if you're into tabletop gaming and want to merge that with the LEGO hobby. It's a really nice way to do it, so I'll have a link to that in the description, and you can check out everything else Brickmania is selling at brickmania.com. Now, we're very happy to have Ross Fallon joining us on the show tonight. You might know him as MgfCustoms on YouTube, where he posts some really awesome custom LEGO Minifigs that we'll be talking about tonight. He is 17 years old, and I really appreciate you joining us, Ross.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad to be here. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely nice to have you back. And for people who watched our 24-hour live stream, you might be familiar with Ross. He stuck it out with us close to, might have been about the longest of anyone on the stream. I don't even know how many hours he was with us, but
I think it was
appreciate that.
I think it was about 8, yeah, because I usually have an abnormal amount. Like, that just happened to be a convenient time where I just had, little to nothing to do those few days. Except work on this guy who I was working on at the time, the Reverse Slash.
That did work out well, so we definitely appreciate you sticking it out with us for so many hours there during that live stream. And if you just want to start off by telling us a little bit about kind of your history with LEGO and then how you got into the community.
I only have like a fragment of a memory of me building my first LEGO tower. But apparently my mom told me that when I was 3, she actually got me regular LEGO. I'm kind of curious what kind of LEGO it might have been for that time. But then apparently she was afraid I was going to choke, obviously. I was 3 years old, so she gets me Mega Bloks. I'm not proud of this, but she gets me Mega Bloks, and I guess those are the massive blocks I remember, not actually LEGO. And I just have vague memories of playing with LEGO when I was like 3, and eventually I guess I dropped off. Don't know what I did from when I was 3 years old up until like 2005 when I discovered Star Wars. And Star Wars is really the reason I got back into LEGO, because when I discovered Star Wars, it was like opening up my life, basically. The way I discovered Star Wars, I got Revenge of the Sith was coming out at the time, and I got a Han Solo and Carbonite Burger King toy, and then I was so fascinated by this friggin' toy, I wanted to go see the movie because the commercials were playing for it because it was coming out in theaters. So I asked my mom if I could go see Star Wars Episode 3, and so I go see it with a friend and his brother. And then eventually, my birthday came around. I was still really, obviously, heavily interested in Star Wars. And I see Anakin's Jedi Interceptor with Vulture Droid as one of the cheapest Star Wars sets LEGO had available at that time, 2005. So I get the set. I have my dad build it. And so eventually, I don't know what happened to it. When you're that age, no LEGO set lasts. So eventually, it deteriorated into little pieces and scattered amongst my other toys. No idea where all the pieces must have gone. And I stopped again. And then in 2007, when I had moved down to Florida, a year and a half-ish after I had moved down to Florida, my friend and his stepbrother, they introduced me to LEGO Star Wars again, because at that point the first clone battle pack and battle droid battle packs were coming out. It was like they had been out for like a year, and he showed me these clone troopers, and I was so surprised that they were so easily accessible. Like those minifigures, from what I had remembered at that time, they were all available in the turbo tank, expensive sets. So the fact that the clone troopers and droids were so readily available in such small sets, I got so excited. So I went out and bought my own set. We started trading, and eventually I brought it amongst myself to get back into LEGO. Eventually, after buying my first few Star Wars sets, my first few city sets, I discovered YouTube, and that there were people online posting their own stuff, and that I could do the same. And then eventually I was inspired by people like, the funny thing, the very first person who inspired me, I actually kind of owe it all to MgfCustoms. You guys know him, Tyler. Mm-hmm. And his custom clones that he had featured in Spugastew's Star Wars stop motions. The Squad 42 stop motions are what inspired me to pick up a Sharpie and an X-Acto knife and make my first crappy customs. I remember years later, after I've still, after I was where I am today, I'd still find those and just be like, wow. But yeah, it was really people like Spuggastew, MgfCustoms, Pizza Movies, Zach Macias, who is still active. Have you guys seen Zach Macias' Star Wars Episode 7 trailer he did with another guy? I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but
I'm trying to remember. I might have seen that and not realized who made it.
Yeah, he's amazing. He was one of my first inspirations. Nathan Wells, you guys might have heard of.
Of course, Nathan Wells. Yeah. I always remember his. It was the 30th anniversary of the minifigure. He did a really nice animation for that contest. It's
really cool to see him and Zach Macias still going, because it was really those two guys that first inspired me to become to get a YouTube account. And funny thing, this goes so far back, it's unbelievable. I was originally going to make a new account called BrickQuest Studios. That was going to be my name on YouTube, but I couldn't. I never got the email confirmation. Like it never worked. I was like 9 years old. So my dad had a YouTube account already set up. So I just took his. So, yeah, Michael MGF was my dad's account.
I've always wondered where that came from, because your name isn't Michael, and so I always wondered where that name came from.
Michael's my middle name.
Okay.
MGF can kind of stand for making great figures, so it works, okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It all fell into place, clearly.
Well, it's nice interviewing you, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So was that 2008? You said you made the YouTube page?
Yeah. It was no. It was late 2000. No, it was like early 2007. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
So YouTube was a very different beast back then.
Yeah, that was definitely long before the current craze of kind of going on YouTube and posting whatever Lego videos pop into your head. But yeah, you definitely were. I think we're on before the major craze that's going on now.
It was long before anything existed. I mean, it wasn't until 2 years later when I realized Skype was a thing and then I could connect with people that I really started to understand what the LEGO community was becoming. And it was the LEGO community at that time. YouTube was such a different place in general. You had, I mean, the layouts of channels looked like crap. I mean, it was awful. But no one ever cared. It was YouTube was still such a great place for the time. There was Fred, who had when he hit 1 million subscribers, that was a huge thing. He was the first person to ever hit 1 million subscribers, and now 2015, PewDiePie has 38 million or something.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's 1 million now. Yeah, you look back and it's nothing.
And now Fred is practically forgotten, and so it's amazing how times have changed. And so the LEGO community, the way it was, you had 1,000 subscribers, you were on top. Now, I mean, I don't even know what the limit is. I never thought I'd be friggin' sitting here about to hit 100,000 subscribers. That's what blows my mind. If little Ross, who was waving his figures around with sticks on camera and on my dad's crappy little cyber shot and posting it on YouTube, if I showed little Ross what I would be today, I would be like, oh my god, because at the end of the day, I have friends who really don't have a lot of subscribers at all, and some of them are really down there, and so I still tell them that it's like 50 subscribers. That's 50 people that saw your work and liked it enough to where they want to see more of it. So that's awesome alone. And the fact that it's over the years, almost 100,000 people have done that same thing for me, it's mind-blowing. And it's surreal, which is why I'm kind of upset that I really don't have anything I can do aside from a nice thank you video for a 100,000 subscriber video. That still doesn't make me happy, but yeah. So.
Yeah, that's definitely true, though. It is amazing when you think about how it's built up over the years, and I think you see that with a lot of major YouTubers, whether you're vlogging or whatever you're doing. You can go back through their old videos, and it's amazing to see their how they've progressed over the years and gotten better, whether it's stop motions or reviews, if you're doing Lego videos or whatever it might be.
You can kind of track that history. The power of the platform, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not really sure if I would call it a shame, because there are still LEGO videos that like that's like super big. His Star Wars Episode 7 video that got like what, I don't know, what, 5 million views, something like that, in that range. And it's like, stop motions are still pretty huge, but I don't know what's happened, but I see fewer and fewer and fewer stop motions from people. Like the LEGO community has almost, the YouTube side anyway, seems to have like really become about reviews a lot. If you haven't noticed.
Yeah, well, I think
maybe the stop motion as a format. Do you think it's been? Or people feel like the barrier to entry is too high. Like to actually execute well. It takes so many resources that it might as well just not execute at all.
And it's such a skill that you have to develop. I mean, stop motion, the focus you have to have, the time you have to have. It is so incredible what people are able to achieve, which is why I've always been, ever since I've started on YouTube, impressed with the best stop motion animators I know out there, like Zach Macias, like Nathan Wells, like Forest Fire, like Keshin. The amount of effort it must take them to do one single video is absolutely insane. So that's why it's so exciting for me when I do see stop motions coming from those people, and when they are as awesome as they are today, because they've been doing it so long. It's great, but
Yeah, I think that's definitely true though about the kind of barrier to entry. I think anyone can sit down and open up a Lego set and say, here's my review. A lot of them aren't going to be very good, but anyone can do it. Whereas stop motion, I think over the years have just gotten the people who are actually really good at it, have stuck with it, and so now they might not post the videos often because if they're good, they're taking a while to make it and not being able to release them as often. But you see some really good ones out there. They just aren't releasing them as often now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is there anything else that you really admire or pay attention to in the LEGO community? You mentioned stop motion, which is something that we really don't hear from a lot of people. What else do you kind of like? Are there town builders you like, or do you like a lot of space builders? What's your other areas of interest or focus?
People, I mean, I've tried recently to really focus on people's mocks on Flickr and follow more people. Like, I even asked my buddies here, LEGO's fan, to recommend a few people to follow, because I feel like sometimes I don't see enough mocks, but I still respect a lot of people's mocks, the ones that I do see, especially the people at Brickfair, I've said before, the most impressive mock I've ever seen. I didn't think I was going to see it in person. Was that Rivendell build? They brought it to Brickfair VA 2012, and it's like, I really respect people who can build mocks like that. And the number one thing that I respect the most from people is quality. If you don't rush something out there, if you don't put a lot of time and effort into something, and then that shows, it bothers me. But when I see really high quality work from some really skilled people, I mean, it's hard to name a few. It's more of just like a general thing. But I mean, I'd say maybe a quick name I could throw out there would be like LegoHolic. Have you guys seen how he displays his work?
Of course, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the builds he does, how fast he does them, the editing he puts into his photos. Something like that I really respect. And then yeah, that's like one example of that I could just throw out off the top of my head out of many people. So yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, quality over quantity is generally nice when you're doing Lego creations. You definitely notice it when they spend that extra time on a build.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's like the number one rule of my YouTube channel. I don't rush my minifigures. I don't rush my reviews. I don't tend to look at others' channels, for example. Like, I really like to run my own race. Like, that's one of the biggest rules for me. Just stay in my lane, focus on what I do, because it means the world to me, the fact alone that people are there to see my work and appreciate what I do. So I don't know where I was going with that.
I think I want to take this. Let's take this in like a little bit of a different direction. So you are active on YouTube, and you did mention Flickr, and I believe you have a Twitter. Are there any other platforms that you kind of use to communicate your endeavors with the world?
YouTube, Flickr, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That's it. I mean, if you really want to dig, there's a mock pages page that I have. I think it's called Ross Fallon, from what I remember. It might just be called Michael MGF. I don't remember. I haven't used the damn thing since like 2010. There's some ancient Ross history on that page, man. So if you want to include that, that's a thing.
Okay, but so now you spend a lot of your time communicating in a visual way, you know, with videos. Do you ever feel the need to kind of write, you know, like articles or sort of get like step-by-step, maybe like tutorials out to people? Does that ever cross your mind?
Not typically, actually, no.
No?
It really doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Tutorials, I've had a lot of requests to do tutorials, and as much as I would love to do tutorials, it's like I barely have the time to do my own figures and record my own reviews. So I usually just try to point people in the right direction when they ask. And
okay.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's a respectable thing to do because, yeah, like, doing stuff like that, time-intensive, labor-intensive, and if you've already got stuff on your plate, adding more, you know.
But I mean, it's still like when somebody asks me what type of paint I use, you know, what should they use to make this? Can you post a tutorial about this? I usually respond because responding to people and giving them quick recommendations is definitely much easier. And also because one thing I'd be concerned about with tutorials is communication and getting the right things across. And so it's like that and stop motion are just two things I've just never really considered doing. I've had people request me to do stop motions as well, but it's just I enjoy painting minifigures so well and having so much support from just doing that alone. It's been so awesome that I've just never considered ever changing it, you know? It's
totally
such a ride that you just don't want to get off of, or like, I don't know, say you're on a roller coaster and it's like you have another cart next to you, you know? I like to stay in my main awesome one. I don't know, it's hard to describe, but yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah, you've got kind of, you know, a good thing going there. You're sticking with it. You know what you got going on there, so that works. That's always good.
Yeah, and it means the world to me that I'm able to do what I do.
So we covered a little bit of your history, kind of getting into the community. What's some of your specific history with your customs? How did you first decide to start doing custom minifigs?
Well, as I mentioned, you guys probably know. I'm not really sure. He hasn't been active that much. Spuggastu, the stop motion animator, he did these animations back in like 2006 to like 2008 or 9 called Squad 42, and in those videos he had these water slide decaled figures by MgfCustoms, and this is 2008, way long time ago. And so they were some of the best work I had ever seen. And usually, honestly, customizing minifigures wasn't really too big of a thing. It didn't really resonate with people in the community because the LEGO community on YouTube was so tiny. It was like a small group of people back then. So I saw those. I thought they were so great. And also, what had started that year was Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the series that is responsible for me sitting right here, right now. That series and those custom minifigures that I saw in that video are what inspired me to make my own minifigures and start collecting tons and tons of LEGO Star Wars sets, tons and tons of Clone Troopers. I would buy 5 battle packs of a paycheck, the Clone Walker battle packs, if you guys remember those. And so through that's really where I began as a customizer and as a YouTuber in general. You know, posting my little crappy videos of me playing with my LEGO City figures. That didn't exactly, you know, that didn't get me very far. It was just, you know, something I was just doing because why not? You know, when you're that young, you don't really think of the reason as behind why you're doing it. But it was those two things that are responsible for me being here. And me meeting so many people, and so eventually it started out just Sharpie, and I never really had a standard for what I would do. I would just take an X-Acto knife. Well, actually, I stopped using X-Acto knives starting in 2009 because now I have a massive scar on my arm. Because when you're that young, you're handling an X-Acto knife. It was not a good idea. So And then I was really immature about it, so I didn't get stitches, and now I've got like a freaking crater on my arm.
Oh boy.
Yes, I think people have seen it in my vlogs before, but it's pretty noticeable if you look. Yeah, that was bad. So eventually, my mom one day, I think this was late 2009, she brings home paints from Michael's. I mean, enamel paints. I mean, the crap was basically like colored white out. It was that bad. This paint was horrific. It was horrendous. But I started messing with it, and I really, really enjoyed it. And slowly but surely, I branched off into other brands of paint that weren't like painting rocks onto plastic. And it turned out to be exactly the direction that I needed to be heading in, because that's where I started to paint. My mom brought home some paints and told me to try these out. And because I was so open to it, because she told me they were water, they were water-based paints, they were acrylic paints. I was so used to testers, I thought testers was the only thing you could paint with, the oil-based, cancer-causing awfulness that is testers paint. So that opened up a whole new world for me, and that's how I ended up using paint for a lot of things. And eventually, years and years later, I stopped asking my friends to design decals, because I've known a lot of people over the years who have been really good at designing decals. And decals are like, they like slowly work their way out of the community. There are still a handful of people that use decals, but eventually I stopped using decals when I realized my friends don't have time to constantly make decals for whatever figure I make. So eventually I tried to just start painting everything. And that's exactly how I ended up where I am right now. I never stopped doing that, and I just kept fully painting every figure because it was actually working really well. And so that's exactly, like I said, how I ended up painting every minifigure that I make. I mean, yes, I use the occasional decal, like to stick on a symbol or something, like a shield symbol on like an arm or something. But yeah, for the most part, painting minifigures is honestly the best decision I think I ever made, and that was a decision I made in like 2012. So
Do you feel like the rise and availability of like custom like printing has also contributed to the downfall of the decal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, printing your own minifigures was not a thing. That was not a thing in the early days of LEGO, before anyone was around. I mean, LEGO were the only ones who actually were printing minifigures. So I think there were obviously a few people, none that I knew of at the time, but once people started printing their own minifigures, it changed everything. So now I don't think I've seen people, aside from, like, you guys might be familiar with the guy who still to this day makes his own Clone Troopers minifig maker. That's a name that a lot of people know about. He's still I still see occasional people water sliding, their minifigures, but for the most part, printing has just taken over completely, and that's for the better, I think. There are things you can't print. Take my Groot, for example. Are you going to be able to print this? As much as and yes, I know if you spend enough money, it would cost you a fortune. You could print something like that. You could make you could mold something like that head. You could print, incredible detail like that, but it costs a fortune. So that's why I still think decals and painting will always, no matter what kind of printed figures show up, will always have a place in the community. Because you can't print everything that someone could paint without friggin' just spending a total fortune. So yeah, runaway Ross thoughts about.
I'm sure printing will. I think, me personally at least, printing always looks better than decals. Like 99% of the time.
Oh yeah.
A good printing job is going to look better than trying to put a decal on a minifig or something like that.
Absolutely. I asked Tyler Page, I'm like, would you ever go back to decals? Nope. And especially if it's pad printing. Recently I've been reviewing these figures by Phoenix MgfCustoms, as I drop one. They're fully pad printed Marvel minifigures that he prints, and they're fantastic. So when I see minifigures like this of this kind of quality with pad printing, that's why I reviewed them. Digital printing, I think digital printing is really good if you do it right. Like I'd say the best example that I've ever seen of really, really good digital printing was Brick Ultra. I don't know who their printer is, and yes, there are a lot of good people who do great digital printed minifigures, but from what I've gathered, and I've had digital printed minifigures from basically everyone, Brick Ultra had the best quality, which is why I reviewed their figure too. I think actually I reviewed 2 of their figures from what I remember. So yeah, if you can get a minifigure pad printed. Phoenix, his printer doesn't use the exact same printing as LEGO. I've noticed there is a slight difference, but it's close enough to where I think it really stands out in comparison to a lot of digital printed minifigures. As much as I think, like, I don't want to send the wrong message here that I think digital printed minifigures are bad. I absolutely love digital printed minifigures if they're done right.
Now, for someone that's maybe ignorant of what like the differentiation between all these different printing processes are. Maybe could you elaborate, like, on what would pad printing versus digital printing, and then UV printing I've become aware of. Do you know how that factors in?
If I try to talk about printing, I'm going to make myself look like a total idiot. I don't know how the printers work. I don't know. I'm pretty ignorant myself, other than being able to compare the quality.
So then we can just agree that these printers are expensive. They're pretty freaking awesome, and they turn out amazing stuff.
Yeah, but pad printing I still think is always the way to go if that person can do it. Sure. Because pad printing, a LEGO figure, you guys know pad printing.
Of course, you see the factory tour video, you know,
but digital printing, as much detail as it can allow, it leaves a texture, a pretty noticeable one if it's left that way. So, I mean, once again, this is why I was pretty impressed by Brick Ultra, because they had a pretty thin texture that almost looked like pad printing unless you ran your finger over the surface of the figure. But yeah, it's just the number one difference is obviously the texture, and also if you really look at the digital printing. Once again, I can't really comment on how it works or what would cause this, but I've seen some digital printed minifigures where the design is just flat out grainy. And that typically doesn't happen with pad printing, once again, if done right. I imagine people who might be listening to this who, closely associate themselves with printing minifigures would probably be ripping my head off right now or screaming at their screens. But this just comes from someone who doesn't know about printing, how it's done, but is able to compare the 2 qualities.
All very, very insightful. I think this is the part where we transition to the next topic of discussion. Right, Josh? Yes.
Yeah, but that is some good advice there. You're just sitting there, you're looking at the 2 minifigs, comparing the printing, and just giving your thoughts on which one works best. You don't have to know the technical background of how each printer works to know which one you like better. So that's some good advice there, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when you have like 3 chocolate bars, you don't have to be like a master chocolatier to say like maybe Godiva tastes better than Hershey's, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how it works. So yeah,
Totally.
That's some good advice there. Did you have any background, any other kind of artistic painting work or anything like that, Ross? Or have you been interested in any other kind of painting besides LEGO minifig work?
It's pretty sad. I can paint minifigures as well as I do. Can't draw for my life. I can draw stick figures. I mean, it's pretty shocking that I could probably learn to draw fairly easily given my background with this, but I have
Did you ever do any digital illustration?
I mean, some of you guys might have seen the way I display my minifigures. Like, I usually go pretty over the top with editing to make sure that the thought I have in my head of how I think my minifigure should be displayed on screen comes to life. So I use whatever programs, mostly Photoshop CS5, to make that happen. And but I mean, aside from being able to paint minifigures and make accurate renditions of what I see on screen with those minifigures, and being able to display them and edit together a really nice photo for them in CS5, that's about as far as it goes. I don't draw, I don't paint pictures, as much as I would like to, because I wouldn't mind being able to design graphics for my own channel. That'd be nice. Yeah, it's just been pretty much the extent of painting my own minifigures, and obviously it goes a lot further than just painting the minifigures. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty surprising. People would think I can draw. People would probably, but yeah, no, I don't draw at all. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, just looking at the incredible detail you put on your LEGO minifigs, I would think you'd be able to, transition that into other art forms. But I guess if LEGO minifigs is what work for you,
I'm impressed with myself if I can draw a 3D box, man. Like when I draw a 3D cube, I'm like, dude, look what I just did. Yeah, it's a sad story. But that's one of the many things I look toward improving on once my family and I get out of this situation we've been in since December of 2013. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have any more minifigs you can show us there, kind of in person? I'm sure your desk there has plenty of stuff you could show off. If there's any favorites you have lying around there that you'd want to show people, kind of give an example of some of your techniques.
I have every figure actually from today up until 2012, I think. I have all the figures. Believe it or not, I still have a lot of the figures in my Brickfair case. I haven't fully unpacked that. It's kind of sad, but actually, I'm going to be doing a top 10 photo. So actually, I already have the top 10 minifigures that I picked out. It doesn't go in any specific order, but just to give you a quick rundown of the top 10 minifigures that I picked out: Captain America Golden Age from last year. And then my amazing, you're not, got him, he almost fell on the floor. Spider-Man, which was the center of my Amazing Spider-Man 2 showcase video, and then Green Goblin, one of my favorite paint jobs I've ever done. And then last year's Master Chief and the Arbiter from my Halo the Master Chief collection showcase. So right there, that makes 5. And then Falcon, I was pretty satisfied with from last year's Captain America the Winter Soldier showcase. The wings that I made for him. Wolverine from X-Men Days of Future Past. And then also Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. And Joel actually is the oldest favorite that I still consider a favorite from The Last of Us. And then also, where did he go? I was just talking about him. Okay, Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So, yeah, those are my top 10. But in terms of techniques, obviously the painting. Number one thing about painting minifigures is it's never just one specific brand. I think I use like 3 to 4 brands, something like that. And each one dries a different way. So some paints, like gloss paints, for example, I try to distance myself from because they come off very easily. But thinner paints, that dry really, really, like matte paints, basically. Those are, I think, the best. And the certain paints that leave a texture, I only use in certain instances, and also in instances where that's the only color. That brand is the only brand that has the color available. So, in terms of paints, it's all based around the color, the way I need it to dry, and basically how it's gonna work for that minifigure. So there's that, and then also when it comes to minifigures, sculpting has increasingly become a big factor of what I do. I've been distancing myself from the basic things, and now characters that I'm making from video games, such as the Arkham Knight, for example, I'm gonna have to fully sculpt him later this year. And so sculpting has become starting to become a big part of what I do. But for the most part, using glue. I use brush-on glue, by the way, for those who are curious. It's not like to squeeze glue. Brush-on glue. I use X-Acto blades. I use my razor, the same razor I've had for 3 years. It's this is the instance of the question you're asked, what do? You spend all day doing it. Explain it. I don't know. Sometimes I'll use shipping labels to create certain shapes and certain three-dimensional designs on a minifigure. I've been more recently using, I don't know if I have it around here because I have used all of it, but I have this rubber strip that I use. It's it's hard to describe, but I've been using that pretty recently for the lightning bolts on my flash and my reverse flash. These things I made from that crap. It's a rubber that I carved out with the X-Acto blade. You know, I use nail filers. That's a big part of making my minifigures. Buffing them with this. Once I'm finished sanding them with this, I use a whole variety of different things, basically, and like not airbrushing, dry brushing, basically. It's sort of like, I don't know what you would consider it. Like people, they'll use washes on their minifigures, but sometimes the extent that I go with that, I'll just take black paint, a little bit of it, and just like spread it around the minifigure with the brush that I think is the correct size. I basically just use whatever I think will work for that minifigure. I see a design and I'm like, okay, I lay it out in my head. I can go about doing that specific thing on that specific minifigure by doing this, this, and this, but this would probably be the best way to go about it, because even though it's the hardest possible thing. Like, for example, I'm not that great at sculpting yet, but I tried to create the Arkham Knight here by just using that rubber strip. God, where is it? I wish I could show it to you. I think I've showed it in a vlog or two. I don't know, but it's like basically like a thin like roll of rubber almost, and I've been carving that out with my X-Acto blade, which still has green stuff stuck all over it. It looks like it has like green stuff measles. But yeah, this really didn't work. It didn't seem to resonate with people. I gathered some opinions. They didn't seem to really appreciate it. So I once again am leaning on sculpting, which it's kind of in a way not really what I would say frightening, but it's a challenge for me because sculpting is very difficult, and it's a whole other skill, like stop motion, for example, where you just have to really build upon it. So that's something that I increasingly work towards, and I think one of the biggest stepping stones in doing that was last year I sculpted Baby Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy, and I have a much better picture of this thing available on my Flickr, and I have a whole showcase of them on YouTube. That was probably the biggest step in sculpting that I think I took last year. The rest was just a few things, like, for example, like shoulder pads and Sergeant Johnson. I sculpted the top of his hat there. For example, Master Chief, I sculpted these knee pads on him, but even the Arbiter here, like I sculpted all of that for this minifigure. That entire head, the whole back there, that was all sculpted. But sculpting Baby Groot, something that small, basically the size, like only a little bit bigger than a 1x1 brick, that was pretty interesting. And but it's so many techniques. It's not like something I can just lay out in front of someone. Like I've given you guys like the basic general rundown of what I do, but it's always just like I'm willing to expand out and use whatever need be to make the minifigure accurate to their on-screen appearance. So there's a lot of thought that goes into every little part of my minifigure, which is why I guess people think they turn out so good.
Yeah, and I mean they do turn out really awesome. Like you just did your kind of top 10 rundown there, and those were really cool themselves. So when you talk about sculpting, if you can talk about that a little more, is this like actually taking knives and things and just like cutting away at the minifig, or you mostly sculpting like other things and adding that onto the minifig?
This is the handful of sculpting tools that I used last year. I haven't used them this year. I will be using them again soon, but yeah, a whole variety of tools, quite a few, and and then the X-Acto blade is a lot of it though. I use the X-Acto blade to shape a lot of things when sculpting. But yeah, using green stuff was pretty much the way to go when I made Groot and all those Halo figures and everything. But yeah, for the most part, this is coming from somebody who really doesn't do a lot of sculpting. So people on Flickr who do a lot of sculpting, this probably sounds idiotic too, but using the X-Acto blade was what I used quite a bit. Not for the majority of the figure, but for like the raw shaping, I used the X-Acto blade for the most part to carve out the general shape and then manipulate it onto the minifigure. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. Okay. And then another thing I've been doing recently, which has been pretty challenging, is I've been making minifigure scale Minecraft figures. So now that micro mobs are going extinct, LEGO just put the end micro world on clearance, and now the last of those are being sold out, and basically micro worlds and micro mobs are done. That's the end. The end micro world was quite literally the end. So I've been working on minifig scale Minecraft figures. I'm actually working on the Achievement Hunter team. I made these guys in And then I have one more to do. I'm making a minifig scale fully detailed creeper, because obviously Legos, theirs was just a base color of green with the creeper print stuck on the front. But that was noise. But yeah, I've been primarily working on that pretty recently, along with my Avengers Age of Ultron minifigures. But painting them has been an interesting thing for me, because I was so used to making the micro-mob versions of Minecraft skins, because I was painting such tiny little pixels. And but now I'm doing it on a bigger scale, and it's been definitely a pretty unique challenge that I've been discovering, and getting like the sealant on them to dry the right way and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's one of the many things I've been doing recently. These I'm actually doing for a special project, which I'm not sure if the guy who I'm doing it with is ready for me to talk about yet. But yeah, so that's one thing. But primarily what I'm working on right now is my main focus are my Avengers Age of Ultron minifigures. I am working on those to showcase 10 of them on April 30th. The showcase video will be up on April 30th, and in it I will have the Iron Man Mark 43 suit. I'm going to have Captain America in his new suit. I will have the Hulk, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, the Vision, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Ultron himself, and then there's one more, which is skipping my Ross brain, because it's going to be a total of 10. I only held up 9 fingers right there. This is why I create lists for myself, because even though it's only 10 figures, I can't even remember all of them. So Thor, that was the one I
Okay, yeah. Writing things down so you keep track of it.
So that's pretty bad. But yeah, so I'm making all of those, basically all the main characters from the film, and what I'm doing for those is I am doing what I did for my Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, Groot, Lego, I don't know, God, they're Groot. I'm not sure if you saw it, Lego's Groot. It was the furthest thing from accuracy, and I mean, even for playability, it was pretty sad. Like Lego's new Hulkbuster, to show you this thing, it's fully articulated. And it's big, but primarily for playability. But at least this thing proportionally looks like the Hulkbuster. This thing is accurate and it works. But their Groot last year was such a mistake, if you ask me. I just think that was so. Basically, what I did was I made my own minifigure. But for the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy minifigures, I did what I called like upgrading them, basically taking the parts of Lego's minifigures that I think really works, and then just going from there by painting on additional details, sometimes sculpting different things and removing different things. So, like for example, like Gamora, Star-Lord here. Gamora, I only used Lego's face, and I fully painted a whole new torso and legs. But I really like Lego's face and hairpiece, so I used those two things. I didn't mention the hairpiece right there, but yeah, I used the hairpiece and the head for her. And then, like Star-Lord, I used this entire helmet, the entire torso, and the entire pair of legs. But then I painted all kinds of detail on it, on the arms, on the legs, on the helmet, outlined everything on the helmet. So basically, I did that for all the minifigures in the Guardians of the Galaxy Showcase video except Groot. And I plan on doing that again for my Avengers Age of Ultron minifigures. But I have actually already mapped out everything that I'm going to be using from LEGO's minifigures, and I've already been making significant progress on all of them. More recently, I got started on Ultron, and I've been working on him a lot. I actually have to run out to get some more paint at Walmart after this to work on him, Captain America. And I've actually been making a lot of progress on them, but when you've only got 2 months to make 10 minifigures of this kind of quality and this caliber, it's a challenge, because last year I only did 4 minifigures. The year prior to that that was like 1, 2, 3, 6. That was like 6 or 7 minifigures I did for the Iron Man 3 video. But basically, these big annual videos I like to do where I just basically put everything I've got into it. It means a lot to me personally. Because doing these every year, I look back on it, and it's just like that video represents the year for me, you know. And people seem to really enjoy them too. And I also, in each of these videos, I get some help from Tyler Kleitz, Legoholic. You guys know him?
Yeah.
He's awesome, and my God, the skill that he demonstrates. It's like you show him something, he knows exactly what to do, and then like a few days later, he's got a finished product, and it's mind-blowing. So yeah, I may or may not be collaborating with him again for this upcoming video, but basically doing these big videos has become a huge part of my channel, And it's a huge relief when I finish them, I should mention, because it's such a major challenge getting it all finished. But
oh yeah, I can imagine that must be so much work there. But that's awesome to hear about kind of some of your techniques there and the way you do that, kind of always experimenting and coming up with new ideas, better ways to customize the minifigs. Have you ever caught any flack from anyone for customizing minifigs? I know a lot of people out there are really against that. I'm sure you've run into people over the years who don't like it.
It hasn't been that bad recently because a lot of it came from my general immaturity. It wasn't until like 2011, 12 that I realized, okay, maybe I should stop reacting to people who criticize my minifigures and actually analyze what they say and consider it and actually talk with them. So, like, for example, and because of this, I've grown as a customizer, and I know what to avoid and what not to do to make these minifigures look the way they do. And but sometimes I slip up still. And so, for example, like I mentioned, the Arkham Knight, this really didn't seem to work with people. And that was different because I've been actually on a pretty good spree where people seem to just have been appreciating what I do. So getting a lot of criticism for this was interesting, but once I got all of it, I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. I'll try to make the chin more angular. I'll sand it down, make it look less like he's got a muzzle on. So I instead of reacting, now that I've grown into a mature human being, I take all of their criticism and I take it all into account. So I mean, whatever criticism I get, I usually see and I will consider it. And it was. I mean, I'm willing to admit, so bad with the Arkham Knight that it was enough for me to honestly be willing to scrap everything I did here and just save this minifigure for a later date, focus on those Age of Ultron minifigures that I already talked about, and because the game Arkham Knight doesn't come out till June, so I've got some time before it starts to become less relevant as a game. So, yeah, it's not been that bad, but mostly when I was first starting, like up until about 2012, like that was about the length of my criticism for my minifigures, and so it was like from 2008, from when I started making minifigures, to like 2012, 2013. 2013 is really when it seemed to stop, and I guess I started doing something right. So, yeah. But then sometimes, like for example, I'm working on this minifigure Firestorm from The Flash, and this is by no means a challenge for me. It's just a quick paint job, and I know I probably won't get criticism for something like this because it's so easy for me to do. But when I take on challenging minifigures like that, when I try to, and believe it or not, I think the reason that behind that whole scenario with the Arkham Knight, I didn't sculpt any of this. None of that is sculpted. You would think it was, but it's not. Yeah. I've been mentioning that like rubber strip that I have. I wish I knew where it was.
The elusive rubber strip.
Yeah, it's like a gray. God, where is it? This is the consequence of having a desk like this. I don't really want to dig through my bins here, but yeah, I tried to create the whole minifigure, his whole helmet, his whole chest by just using that rubber material. Didn't work apparently, based on the feedback I got. But I was trying out a new technique. I was trying to see like this crap. It worked so well with what I used on as lightning bolts on the reverse flash and on my actual flash that I thought maybe I could take the stuff a step further and maybe use it on a grander scale. It didn't seem to work though, so this is when I focus more on sculpting. So I'm gonna probably take what I did, put it aside, and attempt to fully sculpt the minifigure at a later date. So yeah, I still do get criticism, but it's mostly when I overlook something or when I challenge myself in a way that with something that I'm not ready for. So yeah, but it's definitely not as bad as it was in my early years because I was just immature. Like sometimes I would just like without any use of grammar or proper punctuation just blow someone off the face of the earth if they said anything about my minifigures. But now it's a very different story because I've done a lot of maturing.
The wonderful things that come with age, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I look back at some of the things I said back then. I'm like what went through my mind? Like to just disrespect people like that. But when I was younger, much younger.
Like to issue an apology for everything I said from 2008 to 2012.
I'm sorry.
Basically, I guess that is me issuing an apology for little Ross's behavior.
But that's awesome that you've matured now to a point where you can take that criticism and incorporate it into your work and therefore become a better customizer because of that. That's really cool.
It makes a good community, man.
And so kind of switch gears here to some of your stuff that you're doing in the future. We've talked about some of the minifigs you're working on. Will you be able to make it to any conventions this year?
I'll definitely be at Brick Fair, Virginia, as always. As much as I would love to be at New Hampshire and every other Brick Fair Todd Webb has going on, it's just, as I've mentioned in practically every vlog, my family and I have been going through some serious crap since like January of last year. It actually started late December of 2013. It's just basically made it close to impossible for me to attend any other convention aside from the #1 priority that is Brick Fair Virginia. And even Brick Fair Virginia is a huge stretch for me, but because it's so amazing and because I get to spend time with awesome people like you two,
of course,
it makes it worth it. It makes all the struggle and the effort worth it, because not only do I get to hang out with my fans who are so amazing to me. That's one of the #1 things that blows me away. I go to a convention and it's like people are asking for my picture and asking for an autograph, and it's like, whoa, I'm just a Ross, man. I never thought I would be at this point. So it's just like that alone. And sometimes when I have like mothers coming up to me and their kids are like so shy, they don't want to, they're afraid to talk to me, telling me how much they're inspired by me. It's like it shows, it basically reminds me in the perfect way why it is I do what I do, and that is to share and inspire people, share my work with people and inspire them to do the same. And so as much as I would love to attend more conventions to experience that very thing, it's just maybe in the next few years it'll be much more likely. But as it stands right now, Brick Fair Virginia is about the only place you'll see me at, unfortunately. So, but then also you'll see me at these smaller conventions that are local here in North Carolina. I might be showing up at those if I can. So,
awesome.
Yeah, Brick Universe and Brick Magic are fairly strong possibilities. So
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice. So I mean, at least you can make it to a couple conventions. You know, people can see their work there if they're in that area around Brick Fair, Virginia.
Yeah,
totally. Now, when you go to these conventions, do you find yourself gravitating towards just kind of spending time with people, hanging out? Are there any seminars you'd like to hit? Are there any particular, I don't know, I know Brick Fair has a lot of different games that are available. What do you tend to do or like to do when you visit Brick Fair, Virginia?
I treat Brick Fair as just like a big reunion every year, because I don't play bingo. I don't sit through those seminars that they do. I don't play any of the games. I just gravitate toward appreciating the mocks as almost like a bonus to just being able to spend time with all the people who create them. Like, as much as I love to experience all of their work in person, being able to talk to them is the best part about Brick Fair. And not just them, but also, like I said, my friends, people who live in the far corners of this country, and I don't get to talk to them or see them in person, like, ever, aside from Brick Fair. So it's mostly just me spending as much time with those people as I can, while still appreciating the mocks and making sure I get whatever footage of them I can to appreciate more so after, when I edit together my Brick Fair video and, you know, put that up. But yeah, that when I record the mocks, though, is when I really spend time appreciating it. And the fact that Todd has now added an extra day to Brick Fair allows that. It makes it so much more possible for me to do, because now there are 2 setup days, so I spend the first 2 setup days just getting my stuff out there. Like I help, I get set up, help my friend Sean get his Halo collabs set up, and then I spend the 3rd setup day just before the public day, the public day start, just going around recording, and it's gotten to the point where now the style of recording my Brick Fair videos, I record clips and footage of them. I don't take photos, because photos take too long, so getting both photos and footage doesn't really balance out, given how much time I have. So it primarily, though, I focus on just spending as much time as I can with the awesome people that are there. So while once again just really enjoying the mocks that surround me. So, but I don't really take part in the extra stuff at all. Just yeah, make that clear. So yeah,
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that's, a fine philosophy to have going into LEGO convention. Obviously there are a lot of incredible people there that are only going to be in one place probably for this, few days here of this convention. That's the only time every year you get all these people together. So you might as well take advantage of the chance to talk to them while they're all there.
Yeah, I cherish every day, and it's like some people, some people I know, it's like they would get there at like 12 in the afternoon, and I'm like, dude, it's a brick fair. What are you doing? Get up! So every morning I make sure that not just I am cherishing every moment of every day of those 5 days, because they're the only 5 days we get in the year. And every brick fair, you don't know who you're going to see again and who you're not. Like someone, for example, his name was Picovam, Andrew Piskovitz. He was the customizer that I respected most. His sculpting ability was through the roof, beyond anyone's ability in this community, and no one has surpassed him even to this day. 2013 was the last brick fair he went to, and then he just dropped off the community. And so it's so important to me that I cherish every moment I get with all of these awesome guys. And so every morning I'm banging on everyone's door at 7:30, get up. And I think I might have come close to losing a few friends doing that, because it's like every morning at brick fair, 7:30 sharp, get up. We're going to the convention center. So, yeah, you don't want to give me your room number, because I will be your alarm clock, and I'll make sure you get up. I'll freaking be calling you and texting you until you open that door. And yeah,
it's the 7:30 Ross alarm just going around the hotel.
So, I usually make sure I'm there as soon as possible, because it's just so important. Like I said, cherishing all those moments. Not just my friends, but also my fans who are there as well. It's thrilling. The entire experience is thrilling, which is why it's such a huge point of interest each and every year for me and my friends. After Brick Fair, we still consistently talk about everything we did at the last one and everything we plan on doing at the next. We're my friends and I were already talking about the movie we're gonna go see. In 2014 we all went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy together, and this year it's probably gonna be Mission Impossible 5, because that's actually, I think, now being released during Brick Fair. So yeah, it's such a unique experience that I never thought would happen. So when I went to my very first Brick Fair, it was the most exciting thing in the world. Meeting everyone that I had been talking to on Skype for the past 2 years in person was so surreal. Eventually you get used to it, but it doesn't make it any less unique. I'd have to say, the more and more I got used to it, the more and more I started to notice less of a difference. My buddy Nick, Epic Nick 100, I've been talking to him a lot, and I went to go. He was actually here in North Carolina briefly, went on his way back to Chantilly, and so I went to go see him, and we had dinner, and then I came back, and then we got back on Skype, and I was like, dude, what's the difference? Other than him sitting right next to me, it's like there's no difference. Our mic quality is so good, it's depressingly similar. So, but going to Brick Fair, though, there is still nothing that ever beats that. That's why I always make it a huge point. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to really express my full potential for what I'm able to bring to that convention. Last year, I was supposed to bring a huge Star Wars box, Siege of Power City, and I still get plenty of people questioning me, what's going on, what happened to it? And I didn't expect things to get as bad as they have. So this year, it's not going to even make it this year either. And it's unfortunate, but maybe next year, maybe the year after that. I want it to happen. Maybe I'll end up building another mock by that time. But Brick Fair, like I said, just something you want to throw everything you have at, because everything everyone you're doing it for is going to be there, and it makes it just such a thrilling event to attend every year. So
yeah. Well, that is so cool, and you can it's awesome to hear how passionate you are about the event. That's just really cool to hear that come through.
Yeah, man. So,
and I think
you guys like go out of your minds recording. I mean, I've never.
Yeah, we do a lot of that, trying to bring everyone out there watching the channel, as many videos as possible. So We actually toned it back a bit at Brick Fair, Virginia, when we went for the first year last year. So, we were able to get a lot though, so that was good. It worked out well.
Yeah, like you guys are still posting like videos from it like 6 months later. I'm like, oh my god. And it's so funny because it's like I usually would catch the occasional glance at you guys walking around filming different things, but then I see how much you actually got after we had left the convention. I was like, my god. Like I saw you guys, like I said, I caught the occasional glance at you recording, but then you come back with that much footage. I'm like, oh my god, that's insane, man. So props to
we
you.
don't record anything, right, Josh? Nah.
Yeah, we try to do our best though, so I'm glad people are enjoying it. I know a lot of people, you talk about how great the experience is, and it is such a cool experience, but a lot of people can't make it to the event, so we try to bring them the event as best as possible.
Yeah, and it definitely shows through. You guys do a great job.
And I think to finish it out for us tonight, do you have a dream Lego set that you've always wanted Lego to make?
You see, like questions like these, I'm really bad at because I can never I'm sure whatever idea I were to give you right now, which would probably be a UCS Avengers Tower, and with the release of Age of Ultron this May, and the Avengers Infinity War movies, I doubt that's really that far out. I'm sure that'll probably happen. And also the DC Cinematic Universe, starting with Batman vs Superman, and then the rest of the spin-off movies, that's starting up. And so, I mean, getting a Justice League Watchtower, a UCS Justice League Watchtower, that would be amazing. But picturing things like that, if I were to picture something completely unrealistic, something that would absolutely never happen in a million years, just having a full, oh my god, it's like the thoughts. There's never going to be one good thought that you can really call your best one. I mean, maybe like a whole full-on city replica of the city of Metropolis from the DC universe. That would be amazing. I don't know. It's just like there are so many things I like to dream about that will never happen. But Legos, they've been having a great run recently with UCS sets in particular. Like the Slave 1, UCS Slave 1, never thought that would happen. UCS Helicarrier, never thought that would happen. But because the Helicarrier happened, it makes me think maybe an Avengers Tower, maybe a Justice League Watchtower aren't that far off. Lego, they already make plenty of Marvel and DC sets, so I can see those two things happening, which is why I kind of consider that my dream Lego set, because I can actually see that those are within reason.
Mm-hmm.
They're not taken out of Lego heaven. So, yeah. Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. So some cool dream ideas there. Obviously, like you said, you never know if you'll get them made, but it's cool to imagine what some of those awesome sets like that would look like. So hopefully sometime in the future, and I think we were talking a little bit before the show about they're releasing so many UCS sets now. Like just this year alone, it's kind of insane the amount of UCS sets they've been releasing. So those bigger sets are coming out more often. You can hopefully get some cooler, bigger sets more in the future.
I don't think it really was until like 2013, 2014 that Lego really started to go out of their minds with the big sets. I mean, last year I missed out on the Simpsons house, the Sandcrawler, the Sea Cow. I mean, last year the only thing I got was a tumbler. And this year I got the Slave 1. I've already missed out on the Helicarrier. Who knows? The TIE Fighter is coming out. I don't plan on reviewing that because it's just like it's amazing how many designers Lego has sicked on the idea of just like cranking out tons of UCS sets. It's great. Not for my wallet or anyone else's, but I mean, for AFOL,
very good for them. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So maybe one day I'll eventually get back up to par with reviewing every set possible. One thing I've really struggled with before we close out here that I do want to talk about. Good God, the amount of Star Wars sets Lego puts out. It is maddening, and it sucks too because I have like a week or two to review 25 sets before people just become not interested. And because it takes like a day or two of recording and editing. I mean, the amount of recording and editing I put into my videos is, as I mentioned at the end of all my videos, it's more so than you might think. It's a lot. It's hours. I think like 3 to 4 hours of recording, 4 to 6 hours of editing typically. It's insane. More so than you think, like I said.
Wow, yeah.
So doing 25 reviews in a month, it's not realistic. It doesn't happen. I mean, I still have sets here, like a few Star Wars sets from the Winter Wave that I wasn't able to review because they just simply became too irrelevant, too fast. I can't keep up with it. So people have even said, like, why don't you review all the superhero sets and you review those really quick, no problem. Because reviewing 6 sets like they released for DC and Marvel each go is way easier than like 25. And also, number one thing that prevents me from reviewing a lot of the summer sets is LEGO releases the summer sets either 2 weeks before Brick Fair or on the day of Brick Fair. So this year, I don't know how this year's going to go because there's going to be like 7 to 14 Star Wars sets coming out because not only just like the basic mainstream Star Wars sets, but also the Star Wars Episode 7 sets. That they're going to have like a bunch of Marvel sets, a bunch of Scooby freaking Doo sets, which I'm considering reviewing because they're so badass. And it's just like it's for me as a YouTuber, it's just too much. So what I do is I prioritize. I review what I think needs a review, and to those who want to hear my opinions on the rest, I just kind of say, sorry, man.
Yeah, so, but I mean, it's what you've got to do. Like you said, there's so many sets. You could either put out a bunch of really low quality that you barely put into time into reviews, or you could put out your higher quality and pick and choose a little more on what you do.
And another thing about my reviews is the length. That's always something I try to pay attention to because the length of my videos, sometimes it can be on my end where it's just too long, or it can be the fact that just something needs to be said. Like my Hulkbuster review, this is the most controversial design out of all the Age of Ultron sets. This is the focal point of the set. So I don't like to just show the set, show its features without giving anyone proper knowledge of the actual set. So I'll go over the actual design of every minifigure that they try to create, Lego. What's accurate, what's not. Like there's Scarlet Witch, for example. It's like she has red powers. They gave her blue powers. They gave her Lego kind of cheaped out. They gave her Supergirl's face. Things like that. I make sure to go over my opinion and make sure I voice everything as quickly as I possibly can. So people are like, slow down, you talk so fast, and it's like, do you want my reviews to be 40 minutes? Because if I have to get these opinions out, that's about as fast as I have to go because I'm not just giving my opinions, but I also have to show the box, the instruction manual, sometimes comic books for the superhero sets, the extra pieces. I have to include my little skits, the blooper reel, the outro. It all adds up. So I try to fit all of that into one review. A lot of thought goes into each video that I do. So, yeah.
So you can just do reviews that are like 3 hours long. Is that what you're...
Oh, God, if I wanted to, I could just sit there and talk about the helicarrier for... I might as well call them podcasts. I really should. Because...
So you really should do this then. I kind of would actually like to see it. I don't want to egg you on to do something like this, but I'm going to egg you on to do something like this.
Yeah.
Do like a 4 or 5 hour review. Why not?
If you got something to do, a lot of free time, nothing to do with that time, yeah, it's definitely something I could consider. But, I mean, the number one thing that I would never want to do is just show the set. Like, just show the minifigures. And that's another thing. That's why I only focus on certain lines. I only focus on Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Minecraft, because those are the things I love. I don't do Chima. I don't do Ultra Agents. As much as I love Ultra Agents, I think that's awesome that Agents is back. I don't focus on any other lines because those don't interest me. I don't know about those things. I wouldn't be able to give you a proper review. So I focus on what I know. So and because I try to do this, because I try to give people as much information about what it is LEGO is trying to portray in their sets, it comes with a lot of flaws and a lot of mistakes. I get tons of comments on every review of people just pointing out every tiny little mistake I made in that review. I mean, it is mind-blowing how bad sometimes it can be, especially in my DC reviews, because I have more Marvel knowledge than I do have of DC, so people pick me apart in those DC reviews, man. But I still, that's the cost of trying to explain everything as accurately as I know it.
That comes with the territory, I think, especially YouTube, and then you combine YouTube and then the comic book stuff, and you get all that together, and you just have to expect a lot of picking apart, I think, when it comes to that type of thing.
Yeah, and as much as I loathe Star Wars Rebels, I have honestly considered watching it because if LEGO's going to be making this many Star Wars Rebels sets and I'm going to be reviewing them, I need to know my crap. So it's like I've considered watching the series just and trying to bear it just for that reason. So, but yeah, providing my opinion and as much information about every little detail that comes into play with every one of LEGO's sets, it's the number one thing that I focus on with my reviews. I don't want to just show the set and its features and then video over. I want to make sure it's a review. People will sometimes complain that I complain too much, that I nitpick too hard. I have too much of an opinion over smaller things. But at the end of the day, look up the definition of a review, and that's basically the answer I can give. But I mean, it's basically why it is that I do those reviews, because I see sets with flaws, some of which can be awesome, that I want to discuss and voice my opinion on. So yeah, that's what I think separates my reviews from a lot of people. I don't just, you know, I tend to try to avoid taking part in the rush to get sets. I usually do go straight for them once they show up, but once I obtain the sets, I get the reviews out on my own time. But the Avenger sets, I've been going out of my mind trying to get those out, because, as I've already talked about in this episode here, I am working on a ton of Age of Ultron minifigures that require the minifigures from those sets. So I need to get the sets. I need to get the sets reviewed so that I can start messing up the figures, because I can't. It's like I'll be reviewing the figure. Oh, whoops! We got a painted torso on this one already. Sorry, can't show you the torso. Already painted that. So yeah, I can't do that. So I gotta get these sets reviewed and get going with that. But I mean, for the most part, yeah, it's a lot more thought and a lot more effort goes into my videos than the general person might think, which is why I don't post videos as frequently as a lot of other people in the LEGO community do, because it just takes that much longer to do a review like that. And also, when it comes to making minifigures, yeah, it's not something that can be done fast. So once again, this is where the #1 rule of quantity above quality, quality above whatever comes into
something. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the idea. That just totally that ruined that. But yeah. So, yeah, man.
Well, yeah, that's really awesome. It sounds like you got some cool stuff going on there, and some good stuff coming down the pipeline in the future here with the reviews and custom minifigs. So, get some good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah,
and
man.
If you want to tell people here before we close, what's the best place to keep up to date with what you're doing? See photos of maybe your past work and any work you'll release in the future?
Okay, so basically, what I mention at the end of every video, not just for promotion, but an advertisement, but for the sole reason of what I do takes long to actually it takes a while for it to actually make it to my main channel in its fullest. You know, when it goes up on my main channel, that's the way I want you to see it in its entirety for the last time. Like when I put up a showcase video, that's how you're going to see it on my channel, and then we move on. But if you follow my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, and even my vlog channel, I give everyone behind-the-scenes photos of what I'm doing, what I'm working on, so they know what to expect, and all those people on there see it sooner, because you know how much easier it is to take a photo, post it on Instagram, than it is to spend all night recording and editing a review or a showcase video? Because I live in a house where everyone, like, right behind this wall is where I record, so everyone, the living room, the kitchen, it's all right out here. So I'm nocturnal, and as I talked to you guys before we recorded this, I don't have a normal sleeping schedule. So I will sometimes get up at 4 in the morning, record a video, and stay up till 10 a.m. until it's done, and then I'll get it up on scheduled uploading. Thank God for scheduled uploading. It is a miracle. I don't have it on my vlog channel, so I still do have to sometimes wake up to post a vlog at the right time when everybody gets out of school. I typically like my videos to go up at like 4:30, but I mean, yeah, it's so much easier for me to post my photos, because it's it's taking a quick photo, posting it on those platforms. It takes not nearly as much time as it does to do that kind of video and the videos I do in general. So yeah, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, those are the best possible places you can keep up with me, because I post there more frequently, because generally it's just an easier way for me to reach out to people without having to do videos for my main channel. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'll put links to everything you mentioned there in the description of this video, so people can find those easy right in the description.
They're all in the description of every video I post too. So.
Okay. So if they go to your videos, you'll find all those there as well. So that is very cool. I appreciate you joining us tonight, Ross. It was great talking with you, learning a lot more about the custom minifigure side of the LEGO community. It's really nice talking with you.
Yeah, I was wondering when I'd finally get on here, so it's pretty exciting, man, and I'm glad. Thank you for having the Ross on. The
No
Ross,
problem. And I want to remind people about the Brick Builders Club at brickbuildersclub.com. You can start receiving your monthly box of really cool LEGO content like LEGO T-shirts, custom LEGO pieces, and stickers, and all sorts of cool content like that. That's brickbuildersclub.com, and I'll put a link to their website in the description of this video as well. Thanks for watching. What was that?
Is that like a LEGO loot crate that I'm hearing of here?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah, it is.
I have to try this.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Awesome.
It's actually really cool. So yeah, people who have that's similar to a LEGO Loot Crate if you are familiar with what that is. So
and it's not called LEGO Loot Crate. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, it's not.
Loot.
Yeah. But it is a similar idea. So definitely check it out at brickbuildersclub.com if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week.